Even the dogs eat the crumbs from their master's table, is the argument the Canaanite woman uses to convince Jesus to heal her daughter. The disciples didn't even want to speak with her. "Send her away," they plead. "She's driving us crazy." He has others to heal that take precedence over her. They are sheep, and she's a stray dog. He is clear that she does not fit into his preconceived notion of those who are in his flock, which seems like such a contradiction to what we believe to be Jesus' message overall. Jesus' ministry eventually becomes far more inclusive and open to all. But at this point, it seems the lines and boundaries are clear. The class and race distinction is made. And yet, the woman persists. And let me tell you, if it were my daughter in need of healing, I'd be begging too. I'd be trying to convince anyone willing to listen to help her and demanding that someone pay attention. And thankfully, maybe even surprisingly from the disciples' perspective, Jesus has a change of heart. He says that the woman's faith was great, and he heals her daughter. But I have to wonder, was the woman's faith in Jesus to heal her daughter? Or was the woman's faith in Jesus' ability to have a change of heart, to pay attention to a need that he might not otherwise have missed or looked over before? She already had faith in Jesus' ability to heal. Otherwise, she wouldn't have approached him in the first place. But by persisting, by challenging Jesus' own assumptions about her value as a Canaanite woman outside the circle of his people, she ultimately made him see her differently. She was worth at least a handful of crumbs. I don't know about you, but these past several months since COVID-19 became our new reality, I've been seeing the world differently. We have become so aware of how truly interconnected we are since a small outbreak of a virus in a city of Wuhan could impact the entire world. We now see how we cannot live with the dualistic notions of us versus them, as we have had to rely on one another for our daily necessities. Frontline workers and others who put their lives at risk to provide us with health care, food, and other essential services for our daily living are of greater worth than most of the paychecks would suggest. Those risking their lives for others are not paid a living wage to support themselves and their families. As shopping malls have been closed, restaurants limited to takeout and delivery, our belief in the endless growth of our economy, the unequal access to health care, provisions and education and distinctions by class and race have been exposed. The impact of COVID-19 has disproportionately impacted poorer or economically fragile communities, and its impact has been far more severely felt by our elders and most vulnerable. As Cameron Trimble, pastor and worker in the States, says, the COVID-19 lockdown has challenged a lot of our familiar values and assumptions within society, and as a people of faith, now is the time for radical reorientation of how we live and pattern our lives. We need to pay attention to what is being revealed to us about our lives and how we live them. We need to spend more time reflecting on what our faith is teaching us in this time. It encourages us to be more inclusive and collaborative. We are so aware as industries such as airlines and manufacturing have shut down or decreased of how our planet is coming alive once again. We have to work hard to maintain that sacred balance between humans and nature. We recognize that we live in a more pluralistic society where everyone belongs and we depend on each other to thrive. Many have begun to spend more time in prayer and reflecting on their lives and whether or not they even wish things to return to normal. I know some have had greater challenges with this COVID pandemic than others. I have been grateful that I have been able to continue to work and receive a regular paycheck. I am an introvert, so I have welcomed this time of solitude and reflection. I have done lots of reading and observing of what has been going on around me. I have spent more time caring for vulnerable and at-risk family members. I have given more time to self-care, as I have felt the vulnerability, the exhaustion both physically and mentally of these uncertain times and a world that seems to be in chaos. But my faith also tells me that change has been a long time coming. Black lives do matter. Our seniors do need good care and oversight in their last days. Our planet is desperate for our respect and care. Our children need fair, accessible, and equal opportunities to learn that are not based on their parents' income or livelihoods. So many of our society have been living off of the crumbs of their master's table, and the Canaanite woman's challenge to Jesus is a challenge to us as followers of Jesus today. In a recent survey of how Canadians are coping with COVID-19 published in our Broadview magazine, the top activity that people were doing in isolation was streaming shows and movies. Cleaning and reorganizing was in second place, and followed by calling friends and family on the phone or by video. I have certainly been doing all three, but I was watching the movie Lady Bird the other evening, the coming-of-age story of a Catholic high school student who lives on the other side of the tracks and struggles to figure out her own sense of belonging and direction in life. A nun from her school, after reading her college entrance essay, remarks that Lady Bird writes with such affection and care. And Lady Bird responds almost defensively that she simply pays attention. To which Sister Sarah Joan replies, "Don't you think they are the same thing? Love and attention?" The director of the film, Greta Gerwig, quotes French philosopher Simone Weil and her belief that paying attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. Film critic Elisa Wilkinson comments that closely attending to the world around us and to the people around us is a kind of grace that makes space for us to love. I'll say that again. Closely attending to the world around us and to the people around us is a kind of grace that makes space for us to love. The Canaanite woman demands that Jesus pay attention. She understands that Jesus sees her differently because of her race and gender, but she persists and challenges Jesus' misconceptions. And a moment of grace occurs, and love enters in. "Your faith is great," Jesus says. It seems to me that a great faith today also looks more like a spiritual discipline that pays attention. A faith that sees those things that have been invisible or clouded in our vision. A faith that calls us to truly see what is going on around us and to live our lives differently as a result. For me, COVID-19 calls me to question the status quo. There are far more questions than answers for me as yet. I do not know how I will change my life or my lifestyle so that I am no longer a part of the system that puts my privilege above another person's needs. I am open to learn new ways of seeing. Am I willing to share more fairly the bounty of my own table? Not just the crumbs, but whole pies, loaves of bread, and bottles of wine. Will I stand while others sit in my place at the table? What exactly is my faith asking me at this time? I want to hear the voices of those who have been reduced to begging and driving people crazy with their pleas. I don't want to silence those voices or ignore them. I want to hear what they say, even if it means me having to make changes in my own life or in my own heart. Let Jesus say to me, "Your faith is great." Time to start paying attention. Time for grace and love to enter in. Amen.